like you never knew. Lego like you never seen. To build beyond your wildest dreams. Lego Mania. Lego Mania. Building gets you so excited.
Greetings everyone, and welcome to LEGO Rewind, where we take another look at old retired LEGO themes and get things wrong right up till the end. It's time for another seasonal recap, the last one with how things are going. I've had to revise the script several times as every other day lately some crazy new sets are revealed that add to things we've already covered, so there's a lot to unpack this time. Let's see what we learned about ourselves this year. Hero Factory. Bet people didn't expect to kick off the season this way. I really shouldn't be surprised that this is one of my most popular episodes to date, but I kind of am. It's easy to assume Hero Factory was a dud when its detractors are so outspoken. I used to be one for a little bit, and with how the sets petered out, but this was a chance for people who always liked Hero Factory to finally get a word in, and I'm happy to give them a platform to gush and reminisce. It was also nice hearing from people who'd seen my past Hero Factory related projects, a few of whom had only recently subscribed, and didn't even know I was the one who made those. Most of us have some history with this theme, whether Breakout or Brain Attack or some other wave was our favorite, and I think it's old enough now to be considered nostalgic. Something more to bring us together. Lego Island Extreme Stunts. This girl is not Wild Style. She is this person from the collectible minifig series. My bad. I could probably do a whole episode about these. There are hundreds to look through. I've realized many of these would make good stand-ins for characters LEGO can't make entire sets about. Dr. Phosphorus here could easily pass for Blight if you want to go Batman Beyond, and most of these are just solid character designs.
You still do not understand. The warriors that could not come have attached themselves to the outer structure, red and yellow, questioning to be the most powerful force in the entire universe. For I am the chosen one.
That Cyborg Girl is one of my faves. So shway. Evidently Jacksepticeye's favorite too. And that is straight up Ashley Birch as a minifig. But the best minifigs are the ones that retroactively increase the value of older sets. We saw this in the last recap. Those Halloween minifigs compatible with monster fighters that add to the roster. This guy's called Fright Night. Remember back in the Adventurers episode I said Pharaoh's Quest could easily pass for an Adventurers sequel if you transplanted those classic characters into it? Well, now you can. They call this guy the Explorer, but come on, we all know who he is. It's good to see Johnny back and lavishly updated. The new colors, the finer detail, the livelier face. This is how Johnny Thunder should look nowadays. And he'd fit right in with those sets. Also, this queen could be a villain, coincidentally released in the same wave, and I guess this hacker girl could be Johnny's new sidekick. She looks like Nico from Devil May Cry 5, so of course I like her. But here's something special, some Planet Ripple minifigs designed by Crazy Hamburger Productions. You can contact him here. This is a treat. We got Minnow, her sea dog, her merfolk friend Noma, the pirate queen. Oh, I love it. I added a few little touches. Seeing this sort of thing makes a guy dream, you know? But back to Lego Island. Right now there's a fan game in development, Project Island, with a slick new design for Pepper, animations, music, voice acting. There isn't that much of a game world to see at the moment, but I hope they're able to do everything they want with it in time. I'll link their YouTube channel in the description. I think this episode marks the first time a viewer in my area found my books at the library, not realizing I live nearby. Funny enough, one commenter accidentally predicted the very next episode after this. How does it feel to be a prophet? Rescue/Dragons was bananas. I can't thank LJ enough for his reading of my script. It was very on point. There are about a half dozen Easter eggs for longtime LJ and TTV fans, as you get the sense that this alternate timeline LJ, who never met his friends, never bonded with them over Bionicle or formed TTV, can still kinda remember our time a little bit, like the stain of a bad dream you can't scrub away. The result is appropriately depressing. It took me a while to come up with a way to top the last April Fool's vid where Galador became a runaway success and ate the toy industry. I had to reach outside of LEGO this time, and Dragons was the mega theme I had the most hands-on experience with. Some have asked me to follow up with a real Mega Rewind series, but aside from me not feeling like it, there's another issue. Mega Bloks/Constructs and its fans haven't done nearly as good of a job preserving those products as LEGO and its supporters have. Go on the wiki and there are loads of sets listed that don't have any scans of the box art or photos of the builds themselves. I have to wonder if any even exist on the internet in some form, any documentation whatsoever, and these aren't even that old. We're talking about a couple of decades removed from today, not 6 or 7. There just isn't much of a reservoir to draw from in Rewind's format, and I would was barely able to scrounge enough together for this one episode. Heck, I couldn't find this BlockBots commercial anywhere, not by itself. It just happened to be buried in a recording of an entire commercial break. I was lucky to stumble across it. Had to download the whole thing and isolate these clips. Could have missed it and then it might remain unseen forever. Maybe if there was more to see I could do it, but I'm just not up for it. Everything I had to say about Mega, I got it out of my system in that script. But hey, if someone else wants to produce a Mega Rewind series proper, be my guest. You have my ringing endorsement. The rescue portion at the beginning, where I quickly run out of things to say and phone it in, people have wondered if this was commentary on the state of LEGO Rewind, that just a little into this season I was already scraping the bottom of the barrel, and like many a LEGO theme that only lasts 2.5 years, I might have to end LEGO Rewind's 3rd year slightly prematurely. And that would be funny, but funnily enough, this series is only 2.5 years long, because I started it halfway through the first year. I didn't even make it back to my timeline at the end. I was hoping people would join in on the charade like last time, and you did not disappoint. LEGO Rewind basically has its own lore now, for however long the comments stay up. In fact, on that note, let's talk about Jack Stone for a bit. Greetings everyone, and welcome to LEGO Rewind, where we okay. Jack Stone was a line released in 2001, seen by many as the epitome of the juniorization that swept through many themes we've covered from this era. It had very young builders in mind, 4 and up, a seemingly ideal transition from Duplo to normal system with a can-do attitude that challenged them to take its very simple elements and create whatever they could imagine, facilitating this through Jack Stone the character. This Tom Cruise looking fella whose superpower is his own childlike imagination, MacGyvering his way to victory with the most harebrained of contraptions, and these really are the inspired sorts of ideas that a young child would come up with to tackle big problems. Need to catch a helicopter? Use a giant makeshift fishing reel. Of course. Need to put out this fire, but the firemen can't make it? Just lift the whole building and haul it to the ocean. Yeah, I'll do it. It's LEGO with training wheels, right down to these more detailed minifigs that, in practice, are a single piece, so you can't switch out their hair or shirts. That's a bummer. In the larger sets, you'll often see Jack work alongside LEGO City's law enforcement or emergency services, but these guys are a joke. Their job is to shout Jack Stone's catchphrase when there's trouble and let him fix their problems.
Can do, will do, can do, will do.
They're so hopelessly inept, this entire world would crumble like a soggy pancake without him. Hey, I didn't know Rescue made a return in this. Holy cow, that April Fool's episode couldn't have ended more appropriately if I'd planned it. The line continued for a few years under the 4 Juniors banner. Jack Stone still appeared in some sets, but his role was diminished, and this building style branched out into other tropes. This line is not very good. I won't say it's crap, I'm not the type to judge any theme that harshly, and it did at least get kids thinking about building their way in a quick and accessible way. The problem is the system is so simplified, there are only so many unconventional building possibilities here. Everything's either a windscreen or a chassis or a bumper, and it didn't help that several of these large, expensive, cumbersome elements started infecting other lines for a while. Jack Stone combined with the likes of Galador and even Bionicle to extend, all debuting in a short time frame, had adult fans of LEGO worried that the brand had gone down a dark road they wouldn't be able to turn back from, that this was going to become the standard. It did not. In the early days of LEGO Rewind, I would have regarded this line as the spawn of Karzani, but after all I've covered over 3 seasons, I just don't have it in me to hate on this. I've seen things. It's more as a meme that people treat Jack Stone as the worst LEGO theme ever made, but I just can't in good faith call it that. It's mediocre, but it's valid. In its time and place, it was just a thing to get a bunch of new little kids hooked on LEGO, who may never have given it a second glance, but after this would go on to build more advanced things. I guess it's just a question of how much play you get for your buck. Today's junior sets will typically have one giant piece to serve as a base, a platform to pile smaller, more normal pieces on, and I think that's a reasonable compromise. It leaves you more flexibility than Jack Stone did, and really, the other sets we grew up with weren't that much more complex. This is certainly a downgrade from other X-Wings of today, but it's almost the same as the original 1999 X-Wing. LEGO's just advanced so much in the last 20 years, it's easy to forget how much simpler everything used to be, even at the best of times. So I thought I'd give this a fair shake. I mean, it can't hurt anyone now. And there you go, that's the Jack Stone Rewind. Back to the recap. Time Cruisers was such fun to cover. Some longtime viewers didn't even know it existed, and speaking as a comic guy, my favorite part was the deep dive into the comics, which an even smaller pool of people knew about. It made the episode special. But I learned a few things afterward. I really liked him because of his characterization in the comics, but a sizable number of people hated this kid back in the day because LEGO was pushing him very aggressively, trying to make him their new mascot, and people just didn't connect because the few sets he was in weren't very good. It's also kind of funny that LEGO went through all the trouble of mixing these random elements from other lines in a blender as if to give kids permission to mix their own toys together. Just the idea that they felt this needed to be said, as if it would never occur to kids that they could do this. Because guess what? Kids were already doing that. Kids make crossovers all the time with whatever toys they have. My favorite example someone provided was a friend's daughter getting Harry Potter and Mars sets on her birthday, so she put Hogwarts on Mars. Brilliant. I also caught wind that there was a proper Time Twister-centric comic, and I went looking for it, but unfortunately this was the most I was able to find. Oh well. Hopefully someday we'll see the full thing. It may just be one of those few LEGO Rewind mysteries that'll never be solved. Speaking of Harry Potter and Star Wars, this, like Dragons, was a chance for me to get everything I had to say about an entire clade of bricks off my chest. In this case, licensed themes. I learned that while Vulture droids can't fit pilots in the movies or shows, the toys apparently are reference to Battlefront 2, where you can hop inside one and take off with it for gameplay purposes. I guess that puts the proper size of the Republic saber tank into question. I knew the original book's proper title was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and it's just those weird Yanks who call it the Sorcerer's Stone because we don't have the common sense to be properly excited by philosophers. Well, in the movies, they went even further, with an alternate take of all the scenes where the stone is mentioned. In the UK cut, they do indeed refer to it as
the Philosopher's Stone.
The what?
I don't know why I didn't think they'd do that, but it's great. Harry Potter and Star Wars combined really were the first to do a lot of things that we take for granted in LEGO now. While I would argue the monster from Rock Raiders was the first big fig, some could argue it's Hagrid, who, yeah, I can see that he is more like a proper minifig just blown up. And while LEGO Studios came out around this time with double-sided faces, you could claim Professor Quirrell was the first minifig to receive this feature. And just look at it, that is ghastly, downright demonic. Here's the more recent version. I want you to look at me when I kill you. As much as I typically avoid licensed themes, they do give LEGO a chance to break new ground by basically necessitating it, so I guess there'll always be some place for them. Explorians is a 1996 theme, not 97. Oops. I worried that this episode may have felt rushed, covering so many quadrants of LEGO space. I wondered if there was more I could have stopped to say about M-Tron or Futuron, but I didn't want to drag my feet repeating myself, talking about the colors and whatnot every time. But I have since taken notice of LEGO's peculiar fascination with space helicopters. There's a few of them. I could only assume these are mainly used inside an atmosphere, otherwise they don't make much sense. They do look cool at least, very Thunderbirds-esque. It was nice to visit LEGO Space one last time, however short the trek was. Since making that episode, I've wondered how this year's Mars exploration sets would look displayed with the old Life on Mars sets. Honestly, I don't think they'd be that out of place. It's something I'd like to see, and if I'd thrown this out there at the time, I might have heard back by now from someone with photos of the two lines mixed together. Oh well. If anyone comes back to this in the future, I'll link their pictures in the description of this episode. Okay, halftime. You know, since LEGO Rewind began 2.5 years ago, a fair number of interesting things have been released, some of which you may recall me asking for throughout the course of the show. For example, a properly scaled Baryonyx that isn't the same size as a T-Rex, and a downsized Dilophosaur. You know, people keep pointing out all the inaccuracies on this girl, and we just kind of accepted Dill's frills for some reason. A huge, built from the ground up T-Rex. I've wanted to see more brick-built dinosaurs for ages, and while I certainly don't expect them all to be so big, she is impressive. These skeletons are similarly intricate and dense, just beautiful construction. A spankin' new Apollo 11 lunar lander with all the accoutrements you can expect from modern LEGO. Look at the insane jump between each of these. It's like a trilogy. A creator set with an underwater mech that looks straight out of Planet Ripple. I even took out the head to add room for a minifigure. I even tried to make her look kinda like Minnow. That was a treat, but not as much as these mechs that were just revealed. As superhero sets, they don't look that great, but these proportions, those legs and broad flat feet, the pelvis, the giant hands, this should look very familiar to fans of my other work. Yeah, this is very close to how I've always imagined Minnow's machine, the Dauphin, would look in LEGO form. How about that? They did half the work for me. Suddenly, a licensed Planet Ripple line of sets doesn't feel that far-fetched. Feel free to design your own take on the Dauphin in Studio or another program using these as a basis if you feel like it. The aforementioned Mars Exploration line. think there are others, but these are the examples I can recall off the top of my head. A lot of this stuff just came out of the blue, barely any warning before release. Now look, this stuff takes years to develop, and no doubt many of these were already being developed before Rewind started, so I'm not gonna claim that anyone at LEGO saw my videos advocating such things. It's just a happy coincidence. Then again... Gee, those space helicopters sure are neat. It sure would be something if another space helicopter hit the shelves one of these days, maybe a couple years from now. I guess we'll never know. Huh. Seriously though, Planet Ripple sets, you bet I'd give them a license for that. Legends of Chima is my favorite episode so far. I never would have expected it walking into this season, but it was the biggest non-recap episode to date, and just editing it exhausted me more than most do, but it was so fulfilling. The entire mission statement of LEGO Rewind is to shine a light on underappreciated themes, and it's usually the smaller ones like time cruisers that fall through the cracks of history, so you'd think dedicating an entire episode to something engineered in a lab to be LEGO's biggest theme ever would go against that philosophy, against the spirit of the show, as opposed to Star Wars and Mega Bloks. But in spite of everything it had going for it, Chima did fall through the cracks. It was cut down before its time, and it is underappreciated. So it fits. And that's not through any failings of the builds themselves, those are super, but the marketing and the climate around it at the time just killed any momentum it might have had coming out of the gate. It also doesn't help that Thundercats has monopolized characters like these. Most fantasy animal stories are more like medieval fantasy, and the heroes tend towards soft animals like mice and rabbits. You can't make a more sci-fi adventure with advanced technology or big animals like lions or crocs or rhinos because it makes people think of Thundercats. And I think LEGO was bold to take their own swing at this type of world anyway. I wanted people to forget the unfortunate time of its release, take a second look at it now, judging it purely on its own merits, see if it could stand on its own 2 feet after all. Or 4. And judging from the response, the episode was a success. Many people who overlooked Chima before have gained a new appreciation for it. Heck, since doing this episode, Chima has become my favorite system theme. Also, there's this. I didn't realize this until the episode was nearly done, but while the builds themselves are pretty photogenic, Chima's box art was really bad in the early waves. I love the character portraits flowing with chi power on that streak, that's sublime, but the blues and greens in the background tend to blend together. It made it really hard to find a set that would be easy to read in a thumbnail. While the bright orange of later waves is pretty garish, at least I can parse out what's happening quicker. Trunks don't have bones, by the way. I've heard rumors that had Chima continued, we may have seen some dinosaur tribes. It's probably not true, but I can imagine their vehicles looking something like this. I could also imagine some Planet Ripple sets translating rather well, being constructed more or less like a marine life equivalent of these sorts of builds. On that note, pirates. Apparently I can't read. This is in fact not Redbeard, it's Captain Brickbeard. But let's not kid ourselves, it's Redbeard. It's the same design. What really confused me is there's another character called Brickbeard who appeared in a series of stop-motion animations in 2016, attacking characters from several other LEGO themes of the day, and he looks completely different. So either there are 2 Redbeards, 2 Brickbeards, or one of each, and a third guy who's an unholy homunculus of both. I wish LEGO would just make up their minds. As far as I'm concerned, this was always intended to be Redbeard and they just changed the name at the last minute. Overall, this episode was another good experience I hadn't planned in Season 1. Pirates is more than a few LEGO fans' favorite genre, and they recognize so many of the older ships that appeared. Some getting them online are as hand-me-downs because they've aged quite well as older LEGO goes. I said in the Aquazone episode that it wouldn't be much longer before we saw another wave of Divers-esque releases, and now we have, under the Friends banner. Not exactly what I was expecting, but I guess the subs can't be yellow every time. Those coral pieces are lovely. Now when the real coral reefs are all dead, we'll still have these. Still would like to see a full city wave in this vein. Ninja. This wound up even longer than Chima, and it's really more of a Ninjago episode. Comparing older themes to their spiritual successors is part of Rewind's format, but this was a rare case where the modern counterpart completely overshadowed the old one, and I really should have seen that coming. Ninja only lasted a couple of waves. Ninjago is almost a decade old. Of course the latter gives me more material to talk about. It's just math. I've been informed that Cole was the original leader of the ninja, not Kai. Okay, I guess I forgot. Rewatching some older Ninjago episodes in preparation for the rewind, I must have missed a scene where they say that. I just never got the impression. One of my buddies sent me pics of his Ninjago collection, which includes elements from every year, at least minifigs. Wow. I think this year's sets had one of the strongest, cleanest aesthetics of any year so far. Powerful colors, razor sharp definition, it all just screams adventure, and I wasn't sure the theme could become any more visually distinct than this. Then we got images of the next wave. So what if Ninjago, but Tron, and Kill Bill, and Insectoids? These designs just exude cool. They are rad, and I find myself truly tempted to cave in and buy me some Ninjago for the first time in a few years. I love the new look, the white and bright green splashed on the ninja's normal colors, the visors, the avatars. It chills with a 90s kid in me. Considering how many games they've made for Ninjago over the years, I'll find it funny if they go all out making the sets feel so gamey and not release an actual game with it, at least an app. But most of all, I'm kinda bummed to see only half of the ninja get anything truly substantial this season. I'm not saying there aren't enough sets, we're getting a lot, I just rearranged some things. It's about priorities. Like really, you couldn't make a car like this for Cole or Zane? You had to make it gray? Was it necessary for Jay to have a jet and a dragon to himself? Couldn't give Nia that flyer? Really? I just hate to see members of the team getting table scraps, to see such a striking new aesthetic go to waste when they could do more with it, with these other characters, in this style. I hope I'm wrong, and that we'll see a few more builds added late in 2020 to round out the rest of the gang. For now, I guess you could port the upcoming Legacy sets, slap on some of the Tron-esque bits and new minifigs, but with its mild shades of space, Nexo-Knights, and even hidden side, it kinda goes back to what I said in that episode, about this one theme appropriating elements of all other themes into itself. There's a lot of overlap. Ninjago's truly become that one-stop jack-of-all-trades ultimate theme, and I still don't know how I feel about that. On the other hand, we're getting so many mechs with knees next year. I'm feeling spoiled. I don't know if this one has them, but I like that you can make two different builds out of it. They tout that like it's this big unique feature, but I still remember when all LEGO sets had alternative builds on the other side of the box. It was just standard. I get that it's hard to do that now with builds being more complex and specialized than ever, but still, it'd be nice to see these creator-ish options more often in other lines. I mean, if it works here, why shouldn't it work anywhere else? The Dank Themes or Weird Themes episode was a chance for me to go ham with the editing, the script, and my delivery. People seem to agree this is one of the best episodes of the series, if not the best, and while I don't necessarily feel that way, I do see why they do. The pacing was tighter than ever. I just wanted to cram as much material into every second I could. I was nervous people would hate this episode for being too weird or forced or desperate, but nope. After all this time, I still uncovered some things most viewers had never heard of, which is what I want to do with Rewind. Just one thing while we're still here. What the heck is a Zooter? How did I miss these? This is a whole other level of weird I only discovered after finishing that episode. Just when you think you've seen everything, there's always some other layer to peel back and see the ooze inside. Disgusting. I also made the erroneous claim that this fan from this set was not used in other lines. Not only has it appeared many times in pink, yellow, and other bright colors, mostly as giant flower petals, but I disproved myself in that very same video with this shot. Oops. You'd think I'd at least learn to double check rebrickable this late in the game. The castle episode was warmly received, though several people were confused that I neglected to mention the medieval market village, widely considered the best set in the genre. I mean, I didn't know I was supposed to cover it. I've always found the set pretty stellar, but I didn't realize it meant that much to people. So, here it is. It's on the screen, and I can't think of anything to say about it. That's why I left it out. Similarly, I couldn't think of a place in The Brick to mention this thing, a giant wooden minifig they just released that really harkens back to the old days when all of LEGO's toys were made of wood. It's there, it's neat, and it is expensive. While we're still in the dark with a lot of older sets, Brickzar has informed me that LEGO fans are working to track down surviving vintage sets for photographic documentation. Good to know. This makes me optimistic that in the coming years, we may find out what more of these oldest of LEGO sets looked like on sites like Brickset. Yeah, I slipped up when I called it Bricklink. I also said North America and Canada. Canada is a part of North America. That's just inexcusable. I also wish I'd found this photo before the episode was uploaded, since it would have made this bit funnier. But here's something fun. Zack the Lego Maniac and Jack the Lego Maniac are not fully separate entities. It's a Redbeard Brickbeard deal where, in practice, they're the same character with different names. When a Lego imitator started peddling Zacks, their alternative to Lego bricks, Lego renamed the character Jack to prevent market confusion. See, this is why I need a comment section for these videos. I never would have known that if my audience hadn't brought caught up, and I love learning these bits of trivia. This series is a collaborative effort. These episodes were both fun, but the brick especially. I love how Castle came together, especially how everything lines up with the music, but I had too much fun with a brick, and it surprised me. On paper, it must have sounded like I'd finally run out, scraping the bottom of the barrel for whatever was left, but what was left turned out to be a lot. And my notes at the end of that episode about the ever-changing landscape of LEGO, while not signaling the end of LEGO Rewind, is basically my final word on system, on the normal, bricky side of it. And it impacted people more than I thought it would, young and old. It really summed up the series. So, we're all caught up. But while I still have the chance, I'd like to gush about Hidden Side for a moment. It's a new theme, not retired by a long shot, but I have thoughts. It's a fresh, original LEGO IP, it's what I've been asking for more of. But I think what makes this theme stand out is the flexibility of it. Most themes with a clear good guy and bad guy are swallowed up by a very narrow range of colors. This gets repetitive real fast, and the more sets you get in one vein, the more they blend together into a mess of parts that all look alike. I get sick of it. Hidden Side does this too, but it's much more underplayed. The heroes are coded by silver, blue, and trans purple, but it's not everywhere. Just a few extraneous bits slapped onto the bus or monster truck, and the ghost bright green is a dead giveaway. Easily the best color LEGO could have chosen to stand out against everything else in these environments. Hidden Side juggles a lot of aesthetics. It's not just this uniform blob, and I think that gives the line room to keep growing. You could build almost any normal everyday thing, slap some eyes and teeth on it, and boom, it's a new Hidden Side monster. And with the ghost bits taken away, these would fit into a city or town layout, so the theme's got some range. And I like how thorough the transformations are. Not just the engine becomes a monster, the station platform could turn on you. Even something as mundane as a bench. Like there's too much evil to contain it all in the school, so it starts leaking into other nearby vessels that just become their own runoff ghostly spawns. The shrimp shack is the most intriguing to me. It's not like the entire building becomes one beast, it's a little more abstract. The eyeballs and teeth more random and chaotic. The ground splitting to reveal giant taste buds, those eyes and the cracks. There's no rhythm to it, it's just evil lashing out of every pore senselessly. Touches like these make this feel like an infection, imply that the sickness is spreading throughout the frame like mold. You can't trust the very ground on which you walk. That's a type of horror I've never seen LEGO take on before. I kinda just want to see the whole town go on Monster House on them during an eclipse or something and eat everybody. That'd be an awesome climax for this theme. At first I was bummed out that most of these wicked ghost designs only appear in the game, but that's just an extra layer you get to enjoy if you want the app. On top of the possessed minifigs already being their own perfectly substantial layer. On top of the entire build doubling as a monster. I was fine with the series continuing in this direction, but in the next wave we do see some ghosts more typical of the game represented, and a slew of weird new ectoplasmic looking bodily growths, even a two-headed variety. I mean, what happened to this guy? Did he get sliced in half on the track? In summation, I appreciate this theme, and I hope it continues for a good long while. And that's it. That's all I have to say about Hidden Side for now. So, where to from here? First, I'd like to apologize. Sort of. There's a lot of talk lately over what does and doesn't count as content made for kids. My content is intended for a general audience, all ages. I'm mostly covering things that were discontinued decades ago for the adults who grew up with them. But there undoubtedly are children in my audience. YouTube's analytics don't account for people under 13 because, well, 12-year-olds aren't supposed to be on the site. So for a while, I seriously didn't think kids watch this series. Yeah, I know. But looking back, I realized that all the comments begging me or outright demanding I cover this or that theme, not people asking politely and articulating themselves in a mature way, but the ones where they're more like, "Do Nights, do Ninjago!" Poor spelling and all. I used to think those were ignorant, nagging adults and teens, and I've been very blunt in return, telling them to ease up. But most of these were just overly excited little kids. It's obvious to me now that they were kids. I even got one response from a mother telling me off for telling off her son, saying she'd block my channel so he wouldn't bother me anymore. I didn't know. I thought he was some guy who should know better. But looking back, yeah, I shouldn't have let those requests for more episodes stress me out so much. I shouldn't have taken them as if some rando was standing right there in my room, breathing down my neck. But that's what it felt like, every time. And I should have known better. I should have coped with it better. I'm not bothered by requests anymore, even ones to cover series I've already done. Sorry I haven't covered every theme people wanted to see, but that was never my goal. I just want to talk about themes I like to some degree, that I can think of something to say about, otherwise I'd be phoning it in. Imagine entire episodes, like the beginning of Rescue. Nobody wants that, I assume. But why am I bringing this up? Why am I beating this dead horse like I do every seasonal recap? Well, it's very fortunate LEGO Rewind began when it did. LEGO Rewind isn't a series that could thrive in 2020. If I started even a month from now, it might be dead on arrival by design, after YouTube was caught with their hand in the cookie jar, as in internet cookies, violating the law by knowingly collecting children's data on videos like this and selling that data to advertisers. We, the creators, have had to pay for their error. Recently, a few episodes of LEGO Rewind were marked as made for kids by the algorithm, and because I don't want to be fined come January or lose my channel for failing to check a box, I have insincerely flagged the rest of the series as made for kids just to be safe. This means LEGO Rewind is about to become a much more exclusive viewing experience. No longer will it appear in search results, so you won't be able to find it by looking it up. No longer will you be able to watch it if you're not logged into the website, even if you have a link. There may be no LEGO Rewind playlist to binge, no end screens to direct you to another episode, and if I continued uploading episodes, they wouldn't appear in people's notifications. So even my own subscribers wouldn't know this content existed if they didn't manually check my channel. And who's gonna do that? What breaks my heart most is the death of the comment section, which has been my connection to all of you watching since the series started. And this is a big part of why I feel so silly now for letting things like requests stress me out so bad. It's something I took for granted. People still comment on older videos like Life on Mars or Aquazone and Racers to this day. It's how I was updated and corrected on more than a few issues in each season. LEGO Rewind is a better series because of you, and that connection may disappear soon. If the powers that be require content like this be buried to protect children from data harvesting, then I guess it will be. I'm throwing in the towel. I'll keep making videos, they may just not be these videos anymore. I was going to end the show soon anyway, but this seals the deal. I'm glad I made this series when I did, when people could still comment and share the nostalgic memories, or finally discover which lines their old hand-me-downs came from, or marvel at things they never would have known existed, or provided me material for these seasonal recaps. Losing ads isn't a problem for me. I haven't made a cent from any of these videos, and I'm okay with that because I made the conscious decision years ago to never depend on YouTube for money, to keep it strictly a hobby. But without a connection to my audience, without people urging me to continue this series when I was ready to end this experiment only 4 episodes in, telling me I had something good here, I would have closed this book a long time ago. In the beginning, I'd only planned 4 episodes, then 20, then 30, and here we are, 10 times what LEGO Rewind was originally set to be. Yes, we're not done yet. I've still got some fight in me, and there's one more thing to rewind. One more episode I'll do my best to finish early in December, so we may at least enjoy a few weeks to reminisce one more time before features like comments vanish, and all that history we've built together is erased. And I promise you, right up till that last day, that last minute, I will read every single one. After that, it'll be up to you, dear viewers, to preserve this series, to spread and share it however you can, so that some people may continue to enjoy it and rediscover things they'd forgotten, or discover things they never knew they wanted. So buckle up, and let's make this a finale to remember. I've teased it throughout the series, I've kept people guessing, but really, what else could it be? See you soon, in a time before time. Toodles.
Well, I knew that anything could be built with Lego bricks, a spaceport, a mining set, but then I thought, anything can Lego build Scooby-Doo.
Cartoon Network and Lego built a life-size Scooby-Doo, and you could win it in the Big Build Sweepstakes.
Guys, I think that right ear has to flop down just a little bit more. Is this even the right brown?
So is Scooby going in your office, Ken?
Oh, no. We're giving Scooby away to some really, really lucky kid. Really lucky.
One lucky Legomaniac will get the Big Build, a giant Scooby-Doo made entirely of Lego bricks.
Good boy.
100 runners-up will win 3 cool Rock Raiders sets. If Cartoon Network and Lego can build Scooby-Doo, imagine what you can do.
I'm not very good with impressions.